Red and blue lights burned through the rain. Two officers stepped out of their cruiser, certain they had found an easy target. A lone black man, a dark car, a quiet street after midnight. They had no idea who was really sitting behind that wheel. Within the hour, one of them would be in handcuffs himself, and his entire career would be ashes. This is the story of the night officer Brian Gallagher, now Craig Dawson. Picked the wrong car to pull over. The streets of Millbrook were slick with a cold November rain. It was the kind of night where neon signs bled into puddles, and every motel sign looked like a warning. Behind the tinted glass of an unmarked black Dodge Charger sat Marcus Reid, 38 years old, a deputy U.S. Marshal with the Regional Fugitive Task Force. He was a calm man, built like granite, with the kind of patience that had kept him alive through 100 dangerous nights. Tonight he was not chasing speeders. He was watching a house 2 blocks away, waiting for his team to move on a violent fugitive who had been hiding in Millbrook for 3 weeks. Marcus wore a gray hoodie over his ballistic vest. His gold star badge sat clipped to his belt, next to his sidearm. His eyes stayed fixed on the radio in his ear until headlights swept across his windshield. A patrol cruiser had slid out from a side street, slowing behind him. Inside that cruiser sat 2 Millbrook police officers. Officer Craig Dawson, a 12-year veteran with a file full of complaints nobody had ever acted on. And beside him, Officer Nathan Price, young, uncertain, and far too eager to please his partner. Dawson's eyes narrowed on the black cha-cha-cha. Tinted windows, out-of-state plates. Sitting here at midnight, he muttered. Could be nothing. Price offered. Dawson only smiled. Run the tag. The screen returned one word. Restricted. To any trained officer, that meant a federal vehicle. To Dawson, it meant something else entirely. Ghost plate, he said, already reaching for the lights. Let's light him up. Inside the Charger, Marcus sighed as the strobe lights lit up his rain-streaked windows. He had committed no violation. He was legally parked, doing exactly what his job required. But he also knew what a black man alone in a nice car in a rough neighborhood looked like to a certain kind of officer. Command, this is Unit 4, he said quietly into his collar mic. I'm being lit up by local PD. Monitor and handle it, the tactical commander replied. We move in 3 hours. Marcus killed the engine, set his keys on the dashboard in plain sight, and rolled down all 4 windows. He switched on the interior light and placed both hands at the top of the wheel, doing everything by the book to end this before it began. In the mirror, he watched Officer Dawson step out of the cruiser, shoulders squared, hand resting on his holster. Officer Price came around the passenger side, gripping a flashlight. Dawson walked up and stopped just behind the door pillar, forcing Marcus to twist his neck to face him. It was an old trick, a small way of asserting control before a word was even spoken. Evening, Marcus said, his voice deep and even. Dawson shined his flashlight straight into Marcus's eyes, ignoring the interior light that was already glowing. Lice, registration, insurance now. Marcus kept his hands still. Officer, before I reach for anything, I need you to know I am an armed federal agent. I am a deputy United States Marshal. My credentials are in my left breast pocket. My weapon is holstered on my right hip. The words came out clean, practiced, exactly the way agencies are trained to identify themselves to one another. But Craig Dawson did not hear a fellow officer. He heard a threat to his authority, and nothing was going to change the story already forming in his mind. Yeah, and I'm the King of England, he snapped, stepping closer. Give me your license. Don't play games with me. Marcus's jaw tightened, but his discipline held. He had seen how quickly an angry man with a badge could turn deadly. Officer Dawson, he said, reading the name tag. Call your dispatcher. Give them my name, Marcus Reid. They can verify me with the regional office right now. I am not reaching for my pockets while your hand is on your weapon. You don't tell me what to do. Dawson roared, unlatching his holster. Step out of the vehicle, now. The rain kept falling, drumming against the roof of the Charger. On the other side, Officer Price drew his own weapon, hands trembling slightly as he aimed it through the open window. In under a minute, the entire situation had gone from routine to lethal, driven entirely by one man's temper. Hands where I can see them. Unlock the door, Dawson shouted. My hands are on the wheel, Marcus answered. his calm now edged with something colder. He was not afraid, he was furious, and he was thinking 3 steps ahead. I'm going to use my left pinky to unlock the door, then I will step out slowly. Do not escalate this. He popped the lock. Before he could even push the door open himself, Dawson tore it wide and hauled Marcus out into the freezing rain by the collar of his hoodie. Marcus, over 200 pounds and trained for exactly this kind of moment, let himself be moved. Resisting, even flinching wrong, would only hand them an excuse. Dawson slammed him chest first against the wet car door. The air left Marcus's lungs, but he planted his feet and pressed his palms flat against the roof. "Do not reach for my right hip," he said loudly, making sure the dashcam microphone caught it. "I have a loaded sidearm. I am a US Marshal. Shut up!" Dawson barked, kicking his legs apart and beginning a rough pat-down. When his hand hit the holster on Marcus's belt, real panic set in. "Gun! He's got a gun!" Price rushed around, weapon raised at Marcus's back. "Don't move. I am not moving," Marcus said, cutting cleanly through the chaos. "Take the weapon safely, then check my left breast pocket for my federal ID." Dawson yanked the firearm free with clumsy hands and tossed it onto the hood, then wrenched Marcus's arms behind his back with far more force than necessary. The cuffs clicked shut, biting into his wrists. Soaked to the bone and humiliated, Marcus was spun to face the 2 officers. Dawson was breathing hard, certain he had just taken down a dangerous man. He reached into the breast pocket, pulled out a heavy leather case, and flipped it open under his flashlight beam. There it was. The gold star badge of the United States Marshal's Service, and beside it, a laminated identification card with Marcus's photograph, the Department of Justice, seal, and an official signature. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Officer Price leaned in over his partner's shoulder, his face going pale. "Craig," he whispered. "Craig, that's real. That's a real federal badge. He's a marshal." A cold dread opened in Dawson's stomach. A decent officer would have removed the cuffs, apologized, and accepted the consequences. But Dawson was a bully whose authority had just been shattered, and his pride refused to accept it. If he admitted the truth now, his career was finished. If he doubled down, maybe he could still control the story. "This is fake," he spat, snapping the case shut. "You can buy this garbage online. Nobody who looks like this carries a real federal badge." Marcus stared at him, rain running down his face, his eyes utterly still. "You have crossed a line you cannot uncross, officer," he said quietly. "Call your watch commander. Call the FBI field office. Verify the badge number. If you put me in that cruiser, you are kidnapping a federal agent." "I'm arresting a man impersonating a police officer," Dawson shouted, trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. He grabbed Marcus by the arm and shoved him toward the patrol car. "You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." Price stood frozen by the charger. "Craig, wait. Maybe we should call. Get his gun and get in the car, Nathan," Dawson roared. He shoved Marcus into the hard plastic back seat and slammed the door. Sitting in the dark, wrists throbbing, Marcus did not panic. A dangerous stillness settled over him instead. Through the wire mesh, he watched Dawson climb behind the wheel. These men thought they owned the streets, thought a badge meant they could operate without consequence. Marcus took a slow breath, feeling his pulse hammer against the steel cuffs. The fugitive could wait a few hours. Right now, he had a new priority. He was going to take apart Craig Dawson's career, piece by piece. "Dispatch, Unit 4. Dawson called over the radio, his voice trembling beneath the bravado. "One male in custody, transporting to central booking. Weapons possession, resisting arrest, impersonating a federal officer." Marcus leaned his head back against the partition, a dark, humorless smile crossing his lips as the city lights blurred past the rain-streaked window. "Oh, the storm that is coming for you," he thought. "It is going to be biblical." The fluorescent lights of Millbrook Central Booking buzzed with a mechanical hum that seemed to vibrate straight into the skull. The air was thick with industrial floor wax, old sweat, and the desperation of a Saturday night. Officer Craig Dawson marched through the heavy metal doors, chest puffed out with unearned pride, his hand gripping the arm of Deputy U.S. Marshal Marcus Reid. Officer Nathan Price trailed a few paces behind, pale and visibly sick with worry. Marcus walked in silence, his expression unreadable. His hoodie clung to the Kevlar vest underneath, soaked through, dripping small puddles onto the scuffed tile floor with every step. His wrists screamed from the over-tightened cuffs, the metal biting deeper with every small movement, but he refused to give Dawson the satisfaction of a flinch. His trained eyes swept the room out of pure habit, cataloging the exits. The cameras mounted in the corners, and the tired desk sergeant sitting behind a thick glass partition, half hidden behind stacks of paperwork. Sergeant William Cross was a 25-year veteran of the Millbrook Police Department, 55 years old, gray-haired, and carrying a deep, well-earned cynicism. He had seen every flavor of criminal and every arrogant hothead who had ever pinned on a badge. He looked up from his paperwork as Dawson hauled Marcus toward the counter. "Look what we pulled off the streets tonight, Sarge," Dawson announced, his voice booming. "Caught this guy lurking in the East End with a stolen piece and ghost plates. Tried to tell me he was a federal agent. Even had a fake badge to match." Cross narrowed his eyes, adjusting his glasses as he studied the soaking, broad-shouldered man in front of him. He took in the calm demeanor, the tactical boots, the unmistakable imprint of body armor beneath the hoodie, and finally the steady, unblinking eyes that gave absolutely nothing away. Cross had spent a quarter-century behind that glass. He had booked hundreds of impersonators, wannabes, and street toughs pretending to be something bigger than themselves. None of them had ever carried themselves like this man. None of them had ever looked so entirely unbothered by handcuffs. "Fake badge, you say?" Cross asked slowly, holding out his hand. "Let me see it." Dawson tossed the leather credential case through the slot under the glass. Cross picked it up and flipped it open. The moment his thumb brushed the heavy engraved gold star, a cold shiver ran down his spine. Fake badges were light, made of cheap metal with sloppy lettering. This one had weight. This one had gravity. He examined the laminated identification card. The watermark was flawless. The micro-printing was perfect. The holographic Department of Justice seal shifted exactly the way it should under the fluorescent light. Cross swallowed hard and turned to his terminal. He opened the National Law Enforcement database, typed in the name Reid, Marcus, added the identification number from the card, and hit enter. For 3 agonizing seconds, the system processed the query. Then the screen flashed red. It was not a standard return. It was a Priority 1 Federal Restricted Access notification. A second window popped up with a sharp electronic beep that echoed through the booking area. Warning: subject is an active duty Deputy United States Marshal. High-level security clearance. If detained, contact Regional Command immediately. Cross felt the blood drain from his face. He looked from the screen to Dawson, still smirking, and then to Marcus, who stared back at him with eyes as cold as a winter grave. "Dawson," Cross said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper, "take those cuffs off him, right now." Dawson's smirk vanished, replaced by indignation. "What? Are you kidding me, Sarge? I already told you it's a very good fake. This guy's a banger. I said take the cuffs off him." Cross roared, surging to his feet and slamming his fist on the counter. "You monumental idiot. You brought me a federal agent. His credentials just flagged Priority 1. Do you understand what you have done?" Price whimpered audibly and took a large step away from his partner. Dawson stood frozen, his mind refusing the reality crashing down on him. "No," he stammered, pointing a shaking finger at Marcus. "No, the system's wrong. He's lying." He matched the profile of the area. "Officer Dawson." Marcus finally spoke, his deep voice slicing through the panic like a blade. "The longer you leave these cuffs on me, the more years you are adding to your federal sentence. You are currently engaged in the ongoing kidnapping of a federal officer under color of law. Every second counts." While the meltdown unfolded in booking, chaos was erupting 3 miles away. Commander Elena Vasquez of the Regional Fugitive Task Force sat inside the mobile command vehicle, a modified unmarked SUV parked in a commercial lot. Vasquez was a grizzled veteran of federal law enforcement with zero tolerance for local incompetence. She stared at the tracking screen. "Unit 4 has been off comms for 12 minutes, she said, her voice tight with alarm, eyes locked on the blinking marker on her screen. He said he was being lit up by local PD, but he never called back clear, and that is not like him. His vehicle GPS shows the Charger stationary 2 blocks from the safe house, but his vest tracker is moving away from the target toward downtown Commander, a communication specialist called from a neighboring console. I just pulled the city dispatch feed. Millbrook PD Unit 4 just called in a transport. They arrested a suspect for weapons possession and impersonating a federal officer. Vasquez's blood ran cold, followed instantly by white-hot fury. They arrested Reid. They arrested my lead surveillance operative during an active cartel hunt. Yes, ma'am. Transporting to central booking now. Vasquez stood, her face a mask of lethal intent. She grabbed her tactical helmet and slung her rifle over her shoulder. Abort the cartel raid. All units, this is command. New target, Millbrook central booking. We are getting our man back. Full tactical rollout. Nobody touches my marshals. Within 60 seconds, 6 black armored vehicles roared out of the commercial lot, hidden emergency lights strobing wildly through the rain, tearing through the streets like a pack of wolves closing on prey. Back at central booking, Sergeant Cross had already buzzed himself out of the secure desk area, keys jangling in his trembling hands. He rushed toward Marcus, ignoring Dawson entirely. "Deputy Reid, sir, I am incredibly sorry." Cross pleaded, reaching for the cuffs. "This is a catastrophic misunderstanding. We are taking these off immediately." Before Cross could insert the key, Dawson shoved the older sergeant backward. "Don't touch him," he screamed, completely unhinged, teetering on the edge of total collapse. "He's my collar. If we let him go, I'm ruined. We charge him. We stick to the story. We control the narrative." He resisted. He reached for his gun. Marcus did not flinch. He looked at Dawson with pity mixed with disgust. "You're going to fabricate a deadly force scenario on a federal agent in a room full of cameras. Your desperation is pathetic, Dawson." Suddenly, the heavy metal doors of the booking area exploded outward with terrifying force. They did not simply open, they were violently breached. A team of 8 heavily armed, armor-clad federal agents flooded the room, weapons raised in a low, ready position. Gold patches on their vests read, U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force. Commander Vasquez stalked in right behind the tactical stack, her eyes burning. Every local officer in the room froze, hands moving instinctively away from their belts as they realized all at once exactly how outgunned and outranked they were. "Nobody moves a muscle," Vasquez bellowed, her voice echoing off the concrete walls. "Federal agents, step away from the prisoner. Now." Sergeant Cross threw both hands into the air and back toward the wall. Officer Price dropped to his knees right there on the floor, crying openly, hands laced behind his head in total surrender. Only Craig Dawson remained standing near Marcus, his hand hovering dangerously close to his holster. "I said step away from my deputy," Vasquez roared, closing the distance in 3 massive strides. 3 laser sights danced across Dawson's chest, and in that instant, Craig Dawson finally understood the full and absolute weight of what he had done. His knees buckled slightly, and Dawson took a staggering step back, raising both hands in defeat. The bravado that had carried him through the entire night drained out of him all at once, leaving behind a pale, sweating man who suddenly looked much smaller than he had an hour earlier. Commander Vasquez stepped past him without a second glance and walked straight to Marcus, pulling a universal cuff key from her vest. She unlocked the steel bracelets in one smooth motion. Marcus rubbed at his raw, bleeding wrists, his expression never wavering, never softening into relief or triumph. He simply reached over to the booking counter, picked up his leather credential case, and slipped it back into his pocket, as calm as a man collecting his coat after a long day. Then he turned to face Dawson. "You wanted to know if my badge was real, Craig," Marcus said, stepping into the officer's personal space, close enough that Dawson had to fight the urge to back away. "It's real, and so is the federal indictment you are about to receive." Vasquez turned to 2 of her tactical agents standing nearby, their weapons finally lowered but their eyes still hard. "Arrest him." The agents moved without hesitation, spinning Dawson around with the exact same rough force he had used on Marcus less than an hour before. One of them reached for the very handcuffs Dawson had used, still sitting on the counter where Cross had set them down, and ratcheted them onto the officer's wrists with a cold, mechanical efficiency that felt almost poetic. "Officer Craig Dawson," Vasquez stated formally, her voice carrying through the dead silent room, bouncing off the concrete walls and the rows of empty holding cells beyond. "You are under arrest by the United States Marshal's Service. The charges include kidnapping of a federal official, assaulting and impeding a federal officer, and deprivation of civil rights under color of law. You are facing 25 years to life in a federal penitentiary." "Wait, no, please," Dawson begged, the false bravado entirely stripped away now, leaving only a sniveling, terrified man where an aggressive bully had stood minutes earlier. It was a mistake. It was dark out there. He matched the description. "Nathan, tell them it was an honest mistake." He turned frantically to his partner, searching for even one ally in a room that had turned entirely against him. Officer Price, still kneeling on the cold tile floor, shook his head slowly, then more vigorously, tears streaking down his face. "I told him to stop," Price said, his voice cracking as he looked up at the federal agents surrounding him. "I told him to check the ID before it went this far. He wouldn't listen to me. He built the whole story in his head before we even got out of the car. I'll testify. I swear to God, I will testify to every single word of it." Dawson's face crumpled in absolute despair as he watched his own partner turn on him in less than 10 seconds, choosing his own survival without a moment's hesitation. It was the final, crushing proof that there was no one left in his corner. Not his partner, not his sergeant. Not the badge that had once made him feel untouchable. The federal agents marched Dawson out of his own precinct, walking him past a growing crowd of stunned local officers who had gathered in the hallway, drawn by the commotion, only to watch one of their own being led away in cuffs by the very agency he had tried to humiliate. It was a complete and total public unraveling, every step of it witnessed by men and women who would talk about this night for years to come. Dawson was shoved into the back of the very same unmarked black federal SUV he had pulled over on that rain-soaked street just hours before, the same vehicle he had once accused of running ghost plates and hiding stolen weapons. Marcus watched from the doorway of the booking room as the SUV pulled away, its taillights disappearing into the rain. He felt no satisfaction in it, not really. What he felt was something quieter and heavier, a tired recognition that this had all been so easily avoidable. A single phone call, a moment of patience, a willingness to listen instead of assume. Instead, one man's ego had cost him everything, and it had very nearly cost Marcus his life on a rain-slicked street 2 blocks from a stakeout that still needed finishing. Behind him, the booking room buzzed with a different kind of energy now, the low, uneasy murmur of officers who had just watched their department implode from the inside. A young patrol officer near the coffee station leaned toward his partner and muttered something about Dawson always pushing his luck, about how everyone had seen this coming for years, but nobody had wanted to be the one to say it out loud. Word traveled fast in a building like this, faster than any official statement ever could, and by the time the sun rose over Millbrook, there would not be a single desk in the precinct that had not heard some version of what happened that night. Sergeant Cross approached him slowly, hat in hand, his face lined with genuine shame. "Deputy Reid, I don't have the words for how sorry I am. What happened here tonight, it never should have happened. Not to you, not to anyone." Marcus studied the older sergeant for a long moment. There was something different in Cross's face than what he had seen in Dawson's, an honest reckoning rather than a desperate attempt to save face. "You checked the database the moment you had doubts," Marcus said finally. "That matters more than you know. Most men in your position would have taken his word for it and moved on. You didn't. Remember that the next time someone brings you a story that doesn't add up." Commander Vasquez joined them, pulling off her tactical helmet, rain still dripping from the brim onto the tile floor. "We need a full statement from you, Marcus, and I want you checked out by a MEG before anything else. Those wrists need attention, and so does whatever bruising you're hiding under that vest." Marcus nodded, finally allowing himself to feel the throbbing pain that had been screaming beneath the adrenaline for the better part of an hour, a pain he had refused to acknowledge in front of Dawson even for a second. "The fugitive," he said quietly, his mind already shifting back to the job. "We lost our window tonight." Vasquez shook her head firmly. "We didn't lose anything. The safe house is still being watched. 2 of my best people never left their post. We move at dawn instead of midnight, that's all. You're not going anywhere until you've been looked at properly. And that's not a request, Marcus. That's an order." A young medic arrived with a first aid kit and knelt beside him, gently peeling back the sleeve of his soaked hoodie to examine the raw, ringed bruising already forming around both wrists. Marcus barely reacted, his eyes fixed instead on the far end of the room where Dawson had stood only minutes earlier. Cross lingered nearby, unwilling to walk away just yet, as if standing there a little longer might somehow make up for what had happened under his watch. As the room slowly emptied, as local officers filtered back to their posts in stunned, murmuring clusters, and as federal agents began the long process of documentation, Officer Price remained on the floor a moment longer than anyone told him to. When he finally stood, one of the federal agents guided him gently but firmly toward a separate room, away from the chaos, to begin the process of formally recording everything he was prepared to say against his former partner. He did not resist. If anything, there was a strange relief written across his young face, the relief of a man finally free of a weight he had never wanted to carry in the first place. Outside, the rain had not let up. It continued to fall over Millbrook exactly as it had at the start of the night, indifferent to everything that had just unfolded inside those walls. But something in the city had shifted all the same, quietly and permanently, in a way that would ripple outward for months. A precinct that had operated for years on unchecked power and quiet complicity had just watched, in real time, exactly what happened when that power finally met something it could not intimidate, bully, or talk its way around. Marcus sat on the open tailgate of one of the federal SUVs as a medic wrapped clean bandages around his raw wrists, watching the flashing lights bounce off the wet pavement one more time that night, this time for an entirely different reason. He thought about the fugitive still waiting somewhere across the city, about the 3 weeks of surveillance that had led to this moment, and about how close this single senseless encounter had come to ending everything. He thought about Craig Dawson, sitting in the back of that SUV right now, finally understanding, far too late, exactly what kind of storm he had built for himself with his own hands. Officer Price passed by on his way to the separate interview room, escorted gently by a young federal agent who kept a respectful distance rather than a hand on his arm. He paused for a brief moment near the tailgate where Marcus sat. "For what it's worth," Price said quietly, unable to meet Marcus's eyes, "I am sorry. I should have stopped him the second the dispatcher said restricted. I knew what that meant. I just didn't say it loud enough." Marcus studied the young officer for a moment, noting the genuine weight in his voice, so different from the desperate excuses Dawson had offered just minutes before. "You said it eventually," Marcus replied evenly. "That's more than most people manage. Make sure you keep saying it, every step of the way, to every investigator who asks." Price nodded and continued on, disappearing through the doorway into the harsh light of the interview room, and Marcus thought with a strange, quiet certainty that this would not be the last time someone like Dawson mistook a badge for a shield against consequences. But it would be the last time that particular mistake belonged to him. The aftermath of that rainy November night was swift, brutal, and historic. True to his word, Officer Nathan Price accepted a plea deal, providing federal investigators with exhaustive details not only of Dawson's actions that night, but of a multi-year pattern of civil rights abuses, evidence planting, and systemic profiling that had been quietly ignored by supervisors for years. Craig Dawson was denied bail, deemed both a flight risk and a danger to the community. During his federal trial, the dashcam footage from his own cruiser and the audio from the booking room were played for the jury, every word of Marcus's calm, measured warnings captured in devastating clarity against Dawson's escalating rage. It took the jury less than 2 hours to return a guilty verdict on every count. The man who once believed he owned the streets of Millbrook was sentenced to 18 years in a maximum security federal penitentiary, stripped of his pension, his badge, and whatever remained of his dignity. The Millbrook Police Department did not escape the blast radius either. The Department of Justice launched a sweeping civil rights investigation that resulted in the termination of the precinct captain, the early retirement of a dozen complicit officers, and a federal consent decree placing the entire department under strict oversight for the next decade. Sergeant Cross, to his credit, was one of the few voices from that night who was publicly commended. His quick action in checking Marcus's credentials, cited by investigators, as the one decision that had kept a terrible night from becoming an unthinkable tragedy. As for Deputy U.S. Marshal Marcus Reid, he barely took a day off. 72 hours after being wrongfully arrested, he was back behind the wheel of his black Dodge Charger, wrists still wrapped beneath his dark hoodie, sitting in the exact same spot, watching the exact same house. Only this time, every local patrol cruiser that passed gave his vehicle a wide, careful berth. When the fugitive finally emerged at 3 in the morning, Marcus did not hesitate. He led the tactical stack himself, shield held high, and put the man in the dirt without firing a single shot. For Marcus, it was simply another night on the job. One more piece of a much larger mission that never really paused, no matter how badly one night had gone. Life in Millbrook slowly settled into a new rhythm, one built on caution rather than the old reckless confidence that had defined the department for years. New training protocols were introduced. Body cameras that had gathered dust in a supply closet were suddenly mandatory, checked and logged at the start of every single shift. Officers who once looked the other way found themselves speaking up in small, uncertain ways, the kind of quiet courage that comes only after watching what happens when silence goes on too long. Months later, on a quiet afternoon, Marcus received an unexpected letter. It was from Nathan Price, now working a desk job far from Millbrook, awaiting the final terms of his own plea agreement. The letter was short, but it said what needed to be said. Price wrote that he thought about that rainy street more than he cared to admit, that he had joined the force wanting to help people, and had let one bad influence slowly convince him that fear looked like strength. He thanked Marcus for staying calm that night, for giving him, even in handcuffs, a clear example of what real composure and real authority actually looked like. Marcus read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in his glove compartment, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. The badge Marcus carried was never a shield to hide behind. It was a responsibility, heavy and constant, the kind that demanded more restraint in the worst moments rather than less. He had learned that a long time ago, in training rooms and in real streets far more dangerous than the one outside Millbrook Central Booking. And he had proven it again on a cold November night when every instinct screamed at him to fight back, and he chose discipline instead, knowing that discipline, in the end, would do far more damage to Craig Dawson than his fists ever could have. Those who abused their power, who mistook a piece of tin for a license to terrify anyone who did not fit their narrow view of the world, eventually learned that the world kept its own kind of ledger. Somewhere, in a small concrete cell with a narrow window and a steel door, a man who once thought he ruled the streets of Millbrook now had nothing left but time, years and years of it. Enough time to think, every single day, about the exact moment he chose pride over the truth and lost absolutely everything because of it.